Welcome to the BWISE PoliSports podcast, where we explore the intersection of race, sports, politics, gender, economics, and the culture through the lens of Black women in sports excellence. This is more than a sports podcast. This is a space where we break down how power, money, and influence shape the games we love and the women who define them. I'm your commentator, Political Leo, and you've turned into the third installment of our Urban Sports Culture series. In this series, we unpack how the culture of the city, sneakers, music, fashion, and identity has been built around sports, especially basketball. We've been tracing how Black women athletes not only participate in that culture, but also reshape it in ways that challenge history, media, and power structure. In episode 1, Defining the Game, What is Urban Sports Culture? We laid the foundation by showing you that it's bigger than the game. It's the culture. From the court to the corner store, we broke down how urban sports culture is about politics, power, and profit, and why Black women are at its core. Then in episode 2, The Politics of Culture, Who Controls the Narrative, we expose the gatekeepers who profit from culture while keeping the very communities who create it on the outside looking in. We reminded listeners that culture belongs to the people, not the gatekeepers. Now here we are in episode 3, the economics of style, sneakers, merch, and urban branding. Our tagline is simple: drip is currency, and culture is cash flow. And when we say drip, we're not talking about sneakers or a flashy fit. We're talking about ways Black athletes and communities have turned style into a global language. Think about it. Sneakers, jerseys, tunnel fashion, sideline style. These aren't just accessories to the game. They are the game. They're a billion-dollar industry rooted in urban culture. But here's the question that fuels today's conversation. If culture is the cash flow, why do Black women who define so much of it see so little of the profit? Today, we follow the money. We'll break down sneaker as currency, merch as identity, and NIL deals as both opportunity and battleground. We'll look at how the WNBA and its players are entering the branding economy and how fans themselves have always been the ones setting the trend. Most importantly, we'll ask what it means to move from being consumers to becoming owners, to stop just rocking the culture and start owning the equity. So get ready, because this episode is about peeling back the layers of drips and dollars to reveal the deeper economics of urban sports culture. Sneakers, jerseys, and sideline fashion built billion-dollar industries. But are Black women getting their cut? Let's follow the money, and let's talk about how fans can flip style into ownership. When we talk about urban sports culture, there's no escaping sneakers. They're more than just footwear. They're currency. A pair of kicks can buy you respect, signal your identity, and mark your place in the community. And from the very beginning, sneakers have been at the center of how sport, music, and the streets talk to each other. Think back to the Jordan era, when Air Jordans didn't just change basketball, they changed fashion, music, and marketing forever. Michael Jordan and Nike redefined sneakers as symbols of status, and the urban street carried that symbol into culture. By the time Allen Iverson came through with Reebok's braids and tats, sneakers weren't just performance shoes. They were rebellion, authenticity, and swagger. Hip-hop poured fuel on the fire. Rappers laced bars with sneaker shout-outs, videos showcased fresh sneakers, and the shoes became shorthand for cultural capital. You weren't just wearing sneakers, you were wearing a story, a struggle, a statement. Sneakers became the passport that crossed the line between the court, the block, and the global stage. But here's the part that often gets erased. While black men have been the faces of the sneaker culture, black women have historically been left out of that signature shoe economy. The industry didn't see them as marketable enough, even though their style, their drip, and their influence have always been just as powerful in shaping the culture. Today, we're finally seeing cracks in that wall. Dawn Staley, a legend in the game, has collaborated with Nike and shown that black women coaches can push culture too. A'ja Wilson, MVP and a reigning face of the WNBA, has her own Nike deal, and her long-awaited signature shoe, rooted in black cultural themes, was a massive hit, selling out shortly after release. And then there's Angel Reese. As a third-year pro with the Chicago Sky, she stepped into a sneaker conversation in a big way. What began as a Reebok NIL deal in college carried over into her pro career, evolved into a full signature shoe release last season. Originally scheduled for 2026, her sneaker dropped early in 2025, and all three colorways sold out in just 5 hours. With her dramatic tunnel fits and her business-savvy moves, Reese has positioned herself as a force to be reckoned with in the sneaker economy. Still, let's be real. The number of black women athletes with true sneaker deals, you can count on one hand. Compare that to the dozen of NBA players and male athletes who roll out shoes after shoes each season. The economics reveal the same story. Black women drive the culture, but the profits still flow somewhere else. So when we say sneakers are currency, we mean they're not just about money. They're about value, identity, and belonging. For the community, sneakers represent pride. For corporations, sneakers represent billions. And the question that hangs in the air is this. If sneakers are one of the purest forms of urban currency, when will black women athletes finally be paid in full for the value they created? When we talk about urban culture, we can't stop at sneakers. Jerseys, hoodies, and sideline fits have become just as powerful in shaping identity. What was once just a team gear has now evolved into cultural statements. Wearable badges of pride that stretch far beyond the court. Think about the jersey. At one point, it was something you wore only on game day. But in the urban culture, jerseys became fashion staples. Stitched in the hip-hop videos, corner store hangouts, and weekend fits. They signal more than fandom. They signal style, community, and sometimes even rebellion. The jersey became a uniform for the culture itself. And it's not just jerseys anymore. Hoodies, warm-up, and sideline apparel have taken on a life of their own. From oversized fit in the 1990s to today's sleek athleisure wear. These pieces remind us that the line between sports gear and streetwear has completely disappeared. What players wear to the arena tunnel, on the bench often becomes more iconic than what happens on the court. Look at Angel Reese, whose tunnel entrances are now a stage for statement fashion. Part athletic, part luxury, always dripping with attitude. Or Flaw J. Johnson blending her dual identities as baller and rapper, rocking merch that speaks both to her game and her artistry. WNBA tunnel fashion has become its own runway, reminding us that for women athletes, every outfit is both performance and protest. A way of saying, I belong here, and I'm going to do it my way. Fans are catching up too. When they buy a jersey, hoodie, or sideline fit, it's not just about supporting the team, it's about repping the culture. Wearing Angel Reese's number or rocking a hoodie inspired by A'ja Wilson says something about who you are and what you align with. Merch is no longer just memorabilia. It's a statement of identity and belonging. And let's not overlook the rise of athleisure, leggings, joggers, and performance wear worn by people who never even stepped on a court. For the non-athlete, this is comfort meets culture. It's about living a lifestyle of sports without needing to play the game. Athletic leisure has turned into one of the most profitable lanes of sports branding. And once again, black women athletes sit at the intersection of defining the style, but rarely owning the wealth it creates. So when you see jerseys, hoodies, and sideline fashions, we're not just looking at clothing. We're looking at culture stitched in the fabric, transformed into a billion-dollar market. The bigger question is, as fans buy in, will black women athletes in the communities they represent finally see that culture return as equity? Or will merch remain in another lane where the drip is ours, but the cash flow goes elsewhere? Name, image, and likeness, or NIL, was supposed to be a revolution. When it passed, people finally said college athletes can profit from their labor, from their brand, from the culture they create. On paper, NIL cracked the door open, one that had been locked for decades. Athletes could now sign deals, promote brands, and cash in before even turning pro. But like every so-called revolution in sport, the question quickly became, who's really cashing out and who's still left out? The truth is clear. NIL has created a boom for some while leaving others with scratch. The athletes with big social media followings, with highlight reels, and with mainstream media attention are signing 6- and 7-figure deals. But the NIL economy isn't neutral. It mirrors the same racial and gender dynamics we see everywhere else. White athletes, especially in women's basketball, often get prioritized by brands, even though black athletes drive the culture and the conversation. That gap between visibility and equity is glaring. We see companies flood resources into certain athletes because they fit a brand-friendly image, often coded as white, non-threatening, and marketable to the mainstream audience. Meanwhile, black women athletes who dominate on the court, who lead in swagger, style, and influence, are told there's not enough market for them. It's the same playbook we've seen in music, in fashion, and in film. Culture-minded from the source, but profits redirected elsewhere. And yet, despite all those obstacles, black women athletes are building in creative ways. Flaw J. Johnson has leveraged NIL not just for sneaker and sportswear, but to expand her career in music, fashion, and media, carving out spaces as both a hooper and an entertainer. Angel Reese flipped NIL into endorsement deals with lifestyle and beauty brands, stepping outside the narrow lane of sports-only endorsements. These moves show how black women are redefining NIL to mean more than just contracts. They're creating entire ecosystems of influence. What we are witnessing is a generation of athletes understand that NIL isn't just a paycheck, it's a platform. They're merging lanes, sports with music, sports with beauty, sports with fashion, and building brands that are multifaceted. This is powerful because it resists the old ideal that athletes have to stay in a single box. Black women through NIL are proving that they are not just athletes. They are entrepreneurs, entertainers, and culture architects. Still, we can't ignore the system gap. For every Angel Reese or Flaw J. Johnson, there are dozens of black women athletes who don't get the same attention from brands, even if they have the talent and influence. The NIL economy, like the sneaker economy before it, reflects a hierarchy of who is seen and who is sold. Until the market values black women athletes as central to culture, not just supporting players, the equity gap will remain. So as we celebrate the breakthrough, we also have to ask the hard question. NIL was marketed as freedom, but freedom for who? If culture is the cash flow, why do brands keep pouring into pipelines that exclude the very women who create the style, the drip, and the dominance? NIL deals are supposed to level the playing field, but for black women athletes, the game still looks rigged. When we zoom out from NIL to the professional stage, the WNBA is finally seeing corporate dollars flowing in. Over the past few seasons, we've witnessed a surge in partnerships. Nike pushing player gear, CarMax putting money behind lead campaigns, Google stepping in with visibility sponsorship, and most recently, billion-dollar media and broadcast deals reshaping the financial landscape. On paper, this feels like the league is stepping into a new era of economic power. Merch is selling like never before. Jerseys are hard to find in stock. Hoodies flying off the shelves. And special collabs, from streetwear crossover to sneaker tie-ins, are proving that there's real demand. For years, critics said women basketball doesn't sell. Well, the numbers now say otherwise. The fans are buying, the culture is engaged, and our partnerships keep stacking up. But here's the thing. Partnerships don't just reflect growth. They also reveal hierarchy. Do these deals uplift all players equally? Or do they replicate the same old structures we've seen in sports and media? Too often we see corporate partners choose which faces the spotlight, and those choices shape the narrative of who defines the league. It's no coincidence that certain players receive a lion's share of visibility, while others, particularly black women, continue to do more with less. Take Asia Wilson, for example. She's not only the face of dominance on the court, she leveraged corporate partnerships into platforms for visibility, from Nike to Gatorade to high-performance magazine covers. Wilson has managed to push past the industry attempts to overlook her at every turn, and she's turning every partnership into a chance to reshape how the world sees the WNBA. She's not just part of the league, she is the brand. Well, look at Nafisa Collier, who didn't just sign deals but co-founded Unrivaled, a new player 3-on-3 league. She turned partnership money into seed money for ownership, flipping the script on what athletes can do when they're given access to resources. Instead of waiting for the league or brands to value her enough, she's building a whole new lane. That's partnership reimagined, not just sponsorship, but as investment in player power. Then there's Flau'jae Johnson. While she was still in college, she was already showing how partnerships can stretch into multiple industries. Her deals with Puma, Powerade, and lifestyle brands prove that players can stand at the intersection of music, fashion, and sports. She's carving out a blueprint for the next generation. Use the partnerships, yes, but make sure they work for you, not just for the company. So the question remains, as corporate partnerships pour more money into the WNBA, will they create true equity, or will they keep feeding old hierarchy? The league has proven that demand is real and culture sells. But if these deals keep shining the light on only a select few, then we're not breaking ground. We're just repeating history with new logos attached. The future of the WNBA branding depends on whether partnerships empower the players equally or whether they continue to decide who gets the mic and who gets muted. Now, if we being honest, fans have always been the engine behind urban sports culture. The drip doesn't start in the boardroom, it starts in the community. The way people lace their sneakers, the way they rock jerseys over hoodies, the way tunnel fashion gets memed and remixed online. All of that comes from the fans. They're the ones who make style move from local flavor to global phenomenon. Look at any major fashion trend and you'll see the fingerprints of fans who reimagined it first. From sneakerheads lining up overnight to grab limited drops, to high school gyms filled with the kids wearing WNBA jerseys, to neighborhood barbershops debating who's rocking the best tunnel fit. Fans shape culture before brands ever catch on. In truth, corporations are just following the fans' lead and cashing the check. But here's the problem. Fans are driving the trends, yet they remain mostly consumers, not owners. They spend billions buying sneakers, jerseys, and merch. But the equity goes to corporations who had little to do with creating the culture. That cycle keeps communities locked into the role of consumer instead of shareholder. It's time to shift the mindset from consumerism to ownership. Now, what could that look like? It starts with fan-led clothing brands, streetwear companies born out of the same communities that fuel the game. It looks like NIL collectives where fans pool resources to support black women athletes directly, making sure the money flows back into the culture. It looks like sneaker resale markets where fans not only buy but flip shoes as a business, turning drip into an income stream. And we're already seeing that happen. Black-owned sportswear startups are carving their own lane, showing that it's possible to compete with giants when you have culture on your side. Some WNBA fans have even created their own grassroots merch, selling shirts and hoodies with slogans that resonate more than official league gear. These are seeds of collective ownership, and they prove that fans aren't powerless in this equation. The truth is, fans are the most important stakeholders in urban sports culture. Without their dollars, their loyalty, and their creativity, none of this billion-dollar industry exists. The shift we need is more from passive consumption to active equity. When fans realize they are co-creators of value, they'll stop asking for inclusion and start demanding ownership. So here's the call to action. Don't just buy the drip, own it. Invest in black-owned brands. Support athletes who flip their deals into community platforms. Build collectives that keep wealth in the culture. Because if drip is currency, then fans have always been the central bank. The only question is whether we'll keep letting someone else print the money, or whether we'll finally start cashing in on our own. Family, we've talked through a full spectrum of urban sports culture in this episode, from sneakers as a status symbol to jerseys and merch shaping identity, to NIL deals that reveal both new money and old inequities, the partnership that both uplift and restrict, and finally, to the power of fans themselves. Each layer reminds us that culture is not just consumed, it's created. We've seen how black women athletes like Angel Reese, Flaw J. Johnson, Nafia Collier, and Asia Wilson are building platforms that stretch far beyond the court. Their drip isn't just fashion, it's politics, it's economics, it's cultural capital. And fans, you've proven to be the heartbeat of it all, turning style into movement and movement into markets. But the question we leave you with is this. If drip is currency, who controls the bank? Right now, the balance sheet favors corporations, sponsors, and gatekeepers. Yet the creativity, the swag, the trends, all of it comes from players and the fans, which means the true wealth has always lived in our community, even when the profits didn't. So when will fans, especially black women and the communities that built this culture, own the wealth they created? That's the challenge, the reflection, and the invitation. Because until ownership is prioritized over consumption, drip will remain currency spent but never invested. And y'all know, culture is too valuable to keep giving it away for free. And this conversation is only just getting started. In our next episode of Urban Sports Culture, we'll dive into episode 4, Entrepreneurship in the Stands, Turning Fandom into Business. We'll explore how podcasts, apparel lines, sneaker hustles, NIL collectives, and even barbershop debates can transform into sustainable businesses. Because fans are more than spectators, they're creators, influencers, and future moguls. The call to action is simple. Don't just watch the game, build from it. Every chant, every jersey, every social media post, every pair of sneakers you wear is already a piece of business. The question is whether you'll stay a consumer or step into your power as a builder inside urban sports culture. Like, share, comment, and join PoliSports Nation. Spread the word and or become a member of Respect Her Game advocacy group at www.respecthergame.online and see how the stories behind sneakers, jerseys, and gear aren't just about fashion. They're about power, culture, and economics, as well as the ongoing struggle for recognition. You won't want to miss it. And remember, sports are never just about the games we play, but the stories we tell and the fight for justice behind them. From youth leagues to the pros, Black women athletes are navigating systems built to silence them, yet they continue to shine, resist, and lead. Until next time, keep rocking that drip, keep asking the hard questions, and keep building a future we deserve. Because here, we don't just talk the game, we change it. This is Political Lil with the BWISE PoliSports podcast, where we break down sport, culture, politics, and the power through a lens too often ignored. Stay tuned, talk soon, and I'm out.